Hey guys, welcome back. This is Grand Theft Auto 5. We're going to do a step-by-step calibration process. My own self-made calibration process. You all have seen my Grand Theft Auto 5 video where all of you have been saying that it's a PC version, he's got a PC hooked up to it, blah blah blah, all this other nonsense. This is the importance of calibration. So let me show you. This is M55-C2 television set that I have. And it comes with the standard presets. I'll show you some of them right here. Now this is the standard preset that comes with the television set from manufacturers. You got standard, you got calibrated, you calibrated dark, vivid, game mode, computer, and then standard. Now all of those presets, they go by certain standards, but they don't know exactly what type of content you're watching. Sometimes it's hit or miss. You know, like this game, for example, they don't know that it's a sunset, that the game is having, you know, a sunset at this time. So when I put it to standard, I'm losing more of a picture. Well, guess what? Let me show you my calibration. So we'll use this one as a reference, standard, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do that I notice here, okay, I need more brightness. So what I'm going to do is turn off this brightness control off. All right, that's off. And clearly you can see that I'm getting a little bit better distance and brightness. Now the backlight. Should I leave backlight 75? I bring it up a notch a little bit. How about 80? 80 is pretty good to get more of that light. Brightness, okay, since I have backlight to 80%, I think the most reasonable thing would be to turn the brightness to, let's say, 45. Now the contrast is fine. We can leave the contrast at 50, you know, but I could move it up a notch a little bit, just to 53. Now the color, I can move it up a notch a bit too, to give a little bit more of that pop. Okay, so we'll leave it at 73. Tint, you never touch tint, you always leave that. Now the sharpness, I would move it up a notch a little bit because I want that vividness, you know. I want that sharpness to come out. So I'll leave sharpness 43. Now here's the important part right here. The temperature. I usually leave it on cool, but you could use a standard if you want. There's the computer temp, there's a computer tone, there's a normal tone. I personally like the cool, because the cool gives me that more natural feel to it, more cold natural feel to it, you know. If I go with a normal, it gives me a little bit of that yellowish, which I don't like. I don't like that yellowish bleak feel of color. I like it cool, so always keep it at cool. Now the black detail, I keep it all the way to the low because I want the my blacks to be deeper, you know. Active LED zones, always leave them on, because if you leave them off, then the LED gets brighter. Look, you see how brighter the LEDs are right now? They're really bright. Now you can turn this off if you want, but it's gonna hurt your eyes, so you definitely want to do that. So I would keep the active LEDs on. Reduce Judders, I leave it at 5. Clear action, I turn that off. Game low latency, you can turn it on, but sometimes what it does is it slows down your game a little bit because it's working more. It's giving more, the TV is putting more horsepower to it, and therefore you might have some lag. You know, but I'll leave it on. That's fine, I'll leave that on. And then, but I don't recommend you do that because you might have some delay on your sound between your receiver that you got it hooked up to. This, when you turn the low latency on, sometimes there's some sacrifices that I've noticed. I experience a little bit of latency on my sound, like lip syncing, you know. Gamma, it's 2.2. I would leave it at 2.4. You see, if I leave it at 2.4, I get those deep darks, much even deeper and darker. So I would leave the gamma at 2.4. So let's go back through this. All right, so what did I do here? I left the backlight at the 80 because I want that backlight to truly shine on my TV. Brightness, I left at 45 because I already have backlight at 80 and I got contrast at 53. So I need brightness a little bit down. Color, I left at 73 because I want those colors to pop out with these backlights, 80% and contrast at 53. Then the colors truly will resemble that vividness and vibrance. Tint, I never touch tint, I leave that alone. Sharpness, I leave it at 43. Here, we leave it at cool. I personally prefer a cool. You guys can choose something else if you want to, but for me, personally, the cool looks much more natural. Active LEDs, I'll leave it on because there's no reason for you to get your LEDs brighter than it is. Like, you don't want to do that, you know. I would just leave it on. You see? See what happens? When you turn the LED zones on, it dims it down, but it gives it more natural feel to it. Game low latency, you can turn it on if you like, but you might lose some audio. You might see some latency between your audio and the lip sync, you know. And if you guys know what the lip sync is, and you know, you guys can look that up. All right, so gamma, I leave it at 2.4 because I like to have those deep blacks on my TV. All right, so what I'm going to do now, since you have seen my calibration on this game, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go through some daylight gameplay here so you guys can... but even right here, you can see how sharper it is, how much better it is. So I'm going to wait for the sunrise. Once the daylight comes in, then we're gonna go ahead and explore this game a little bit furthermore. Okay, so even right here you can see the detail is much better now with calibration. And when I talk about detail, I'm talking about calibration detail. I'm not talking about graphical detail. Even though graphically this game looks pretty good on the Xbox One S. Here you can look at the textures. They're not the highest quality textures, but they're definitely a medium setting textures, which are pretty good. Now I'm gonna wait for the sunrise, and then we're gonna do some daylight driving around the city. But even during the night, you see how much it pays off to have the calibration like this. You see, it looks much better. And another good example, it's right here where the moon is rising, and then the reflection on the character and the shadow. And this is during the night, and you see how much if it's a proper calibration, how well it helps. All right, so let's switch back to the daylight. Let's show you some footage of the daylight. Look, even right here, you can see how much better it looks when it's calibrated. Obviously, I didn't get to the daylight yet, but I'm just showing you even during the night, you see how well it's calibrated. This is why you got to know how to calibrate properly to get the picture like this, to get the lightning to be more vibrant and the shadows more darker. And yes, the upscale does help a little bit. It smooths out the picture a little bit. When you're watching it from a distance, you won't notice that. Now, if you get closer to the television set, you'll notice a little bit of flat, you know, smoothness on some edges. But all in all, I mean, you clearly can see right here the benefit of having the proper calibration. And that's the key, guys. The key is the proper calibration, and you got to know how to do that calibration. You know what I mean? It's not just simply, hey, let's use these presets. The proper calibration is the key if you truly want to achieve that quality picture, so you can enjoy your video game. Because look, your original preset on the TV cannot know exactly what type of content you're watching. Only your eyes can know what type of content you're watching. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully you guys can use this as a tool.